A car is a car. You pay a company a bunch of money and they give you a box with wheels to drive. It can be slow or fast, big or small, good or bad. But it is a car, not a bunch of stories or memories or history. So let's see just how good this one is.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome then to the Sierra review, because nostalgia is well and good, but if you want to know what the Sierra is really like, you've come to the right place.
Front-wheel drive, monocoque and red. This is as much an old Sierra mechanically as I am physically Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's actually a good thing for the Sierra, of course, not for me.
Because that means it's lighter, more comfortable and hopefully won't leak oil every time you hover your key near the starter. There's more options as well. A naturally aspirated petrol, a turbo petrol and a diesel. All 4-cylinder, all 1.5 liters.
Let's start off with the turbo petrol because this of course would be the enthusiast choice, and with 160 horses on tap you would think that it is the enthusiast choice, and I am so happy to report that it is actually really fun to drive. Sure, it doesn't race to the red line like a TSI engine would, it's definitely calmer and easier, but there is very little turbo lag in exchange, and once the turbo does pull up, it gets up to speed really very quickly. The transmission is smooth, it's not a particularly loud engine. Sure, you can hear it in the cabin, but it's not a gruff noise and actually a very nice noise. And speaking of noise, my favorite thing about this engine is the fact that if you put it in a high gear, keep everything off inside the cabin, you can hear the turbo take in that air and whoosh and blow it off. It is so satisfying. I love that.
And if you're worried about it getting a torque converter and not a DCT, worry no more because it is very smooth. Shifts are almost imperceptible at low speeds, and yes, while you can catch it off guard at times, and I still don't like the E-shifter it operates from, it is still a very good transmission, which is great news because it also does duty in the 1.5 liter diesel.
The diesel engine though suits the character of the Sierra more for me. Because even though there is a noise in the cabin, it is an SUV noise. And it's definitely the choice of powertrain for me if I want to cover long distances on the highway effortlessly. Because it's calm, it's relaxed, and you can just get up to speed nice and gently and just stick at that speed all day long.
For more spirited driving, I definitely pick the turbo, and then the naturally aspirated petrol is also an interesting choice. On paper at least, it produces diesel-like low-end torque. So it seems like you can't really go wrong with the powertrains, and no matter your choice, what Tata's always got right is the ride. And the Sierra is one of their best yet.
There's frequency selective dampers, which are an interesting bit of science for you to read about, but in practicality what they do is essentially give you a nice soft supple ride in the city at low speeds and then stability on the highway. And truly, for me, one of the defining characteristics of the Sierra is just how good the ride quality is.
It handles bumps nearly as well as the Harrier and Safari, which is saying a lot. There is a bit of a firm edge, but then a robust, solid feeling even when hitting large, deep potholes without slowing down. And the confidence that gives you is important because the spongy brake pedal doesn't offer much in that department. Still, the 4-disc brakes do get the Sierra slowed down when you really press it, or you could just blast through the bumps like you can in the bigger Tata SUVs.
But unlike every other Tata, which feels and looks like every other Tata on the inside, the Sierra feels different. There's fresh materials, there's really supportive seats, clever details like this soundbar that's nestled here, and if you leave aside some of the rough edges on this pre-production car, the attention around the cabin is impressive.
There's a beautiful knurled dial for the terrain mode, hidden Easter eggs, and even cup holders. Barring some rough edges on these pre-production cars and the annoying touch-sensitive control panel, the Sierra truly is a step up from Tata Motors. But let's hold the claps till the end.
But the second row is definitely something to applaud. Even 6-footers sitting behind 6-footers will have more than enough knee room and headroom. The thigh support isn't fantastic, but it's definitely an 8 on 10. And yes, the window to the world that the OG Sierra offered is now gone thanks to crash test regulations. But you do have a gigantic panoramic sunroof that stretches all the way beyond my head. It is huge. And when you couple that with stuff like sunshades, slightly higher mounted AC vents, 65-watt USB-C charging, and the cocoon-like feeling that the thicker B-pillar offers, the second row genuinely feels like such a great place to spend time. Like, honestly, on a road trip, I wouldn't mind sitting back here. Actually, no, I would prefer driving.
And with a 622-litre boot, it's not like Tata has compromised on luggage space. The Sierra benefits from having a modern platform, allowing for better packaging and better use of space.
Speaking of real estate, there is a lot of digital real estate here. If you're wondering what's what, firstly, that screen is for passenger entertainment. So as a passenger, you can watch videos, you can watch YouTube, you can watch movies, play music, play games. You can connect a set of headphones to that screen, so you're not really giving the rest of the car the audio for your movie or your games. You can even connect a controller, a PlayStation controller, or just any Bluetooth controller, and then also play games through that controller. So headphone, controller, both can be paired to that. This screen is pretty normal. It's your infotainment screen, so your media, some of your climate settings, some of your car settings are in here. And then finally, you have the instrument cluster, which is here. Again, it's digital, pretty self-explanatory. One thing is that this UI is exactly the same as what we've seen on the Safari and the Harrier. I feel they have made some slight tweaks, but overall the theme, the colors, everything is exactly the same, which means that there are some legibility issues with the instrument cluster where some of the font is a little bit too small. But the fact that this instrument cluster is placed close to you, unlike on the Safari and Harrier where it's in a binnacle, does mean that you get more reflections, but the text is just a little bit closer to you and you can read it better, especially for the TPMS, which is just very, very tiny on the Safari and the Harrier. But the big thing is that all of it has worked. And we first noticed this with the Harrier EV, that Tata seems to have really stepped up the reliability of its tech, which is a great thing because there is just so much tech everywhere you look in this cabin. And of course, there is also tech for when you're not looking, and that is the Level 2 Plus ADAS, which again, yes, we've had only a short first drive, but it has worked flawlessly.
That is not what you could say about the old Sierra though. It almost didn't care about panel gaps or plastics or reliability. It didn't need to, because the OG Sierra was never about perfection, it was about personality. It was the car that taught India what a lifestyle SUV was long before we had the words coined of a lifestyle SUV. It was the car you saw in old family albums, parked in the background, yet somehow the main character. It rattled, it leaked, it smoked, but it also stayed. Stayed long enough to become a memory, stayed iconic enough to be recognizable in silhouette alone, and honest enough to be forgiven for all its flaws.
So yes, a car is a car. A box with wheels, a machine that you pay money for, and it shouldn't be more than the sum of its metal and wires. And as far as cars go, this is a damn good one. But for me, more importantly, in a sea of NPC cars and SUVs today that are covered in just 50 shades of grey, the Sierra feels distinct. It has character, it has personality. Because sometimes a car isn't just a car, it's more than that. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bonus section of the Sierra review. We are actually currently driving the diesel, and as you can probably tell, a lot of people are really interested in the Sierra. Like, in fact, throughout the shoot, I can't even count on my fingers the amount of people that have come up to us in their Fortuners, in their Innovas, in their i20s and Swifts just to come and see the Sierra. It is crazy how much attention it garners on the road. Of course, this is initial, but as you can probably tell, again, like we've got 4 thumbs ups in the last 20 seconds. Yeah. Let me talk about some of the bad bits first, and then we can move on to some of the good bits that we didn't cover in the video. Some of the bad bits for me, fit and finish. Keep in mind these are pre-production vehicles, but fit and finish has been a bit iffy. In fact, like on our car, the turbo petrol car, there was a panel next to the steering wheel where the leather had sort of made a weird stitch. We'll put the photo on the screen for you guys to see. And then stuff like the speaker grills in the back weren't cut straight, and some of the leather on the dash also wasn't properly straight. These are pre-production niggles, and the good thing is we went from car to car, and some cars had some other small niggles, some cars didn't. Like, for example, this car that we're driving has no issues at all whatsoever. So fit and finish, I feel once the car actually goes into production, I think it should be fine. I hope it's fine. And if it is fine, then the Sierra is genuinely a remarkable product. So for me, fit and finish on these pre-production cars, the e-shifter and the touch-sensitive controls were the only problems for me. Firstly, one highlight is the seat comfort. For these front two seats, the seat is supremely comfortable. It has a bit of a firm edge, so at first you might think that, okay, the seat is hard. But once you start to drive some distance in it, and by some distance, I don't mean a 6-hour drive or an 8-hour drive, I mean even 10 minutes in the seat, and you instantly realize why they've done it. You feel so comfortable. Speaking of seats, the second row for me, again, it's very rare in this segment. In fact, I don't think it's ever been seen in this segment except for the Kia Ceros, where you can really stretch out in the back as someone who's almost 6 feet tall. For me, the Harrier and Safari have had great ride quality. They have a bit of a hard, firm edge to it. But the great thing is, in those cars, when you hit bumps and potholes at speed, it never feels like the car can't take it. And I can't say the same for the competition of this car and the competition of those cars. But this feels exactly the same. We put it into some really bad potholes at really high speed. Of course, that is part of the testing process. And there were no thuds. Of course, it's not comfortable. It's not like it irons out the bumps completely. But you never feel like you're putting the car through something bad. And in India, when you're doing highways at night and you hit potholes without knowing it, you know that feeling. If you've been in a hatchback or a compact SUV, you definitely know that feeling when you've gone into a terrible pothole. The car makes a horrible noise as if you've broken something. Sometimes the wipers come on. None of that in the Sierra. This feels like a proper SUV when you're going through bumps, and I absolutely love that. You don't feel like you're driving a hatchback on stilts. That is definitely not the feeling you get from this car. A big step up for Tata. For me, they've made such great cars in the past. And for me, the Safari and the Harrier are great examples. We had a Safari long term. I used to love that car to death. But the thing is, I could never recommend it to anyone because it had so many small niggles that put together made it a bit of a deal breaker. For me, this not only has the character of the Harrier and the Safari, but has almost none of the niggles. Anyways, thank you for watching this video, our review of the Sierra. Hopefully, we'll get to do a lot more content with the Sierra very, very soon. So make sure you subscribe to PowerDrift. And I'll see you guys in the comments for any further questions that you might have. I'm just having a great time, man. Chandigarh, a brand new car that's not an EV. What is there not to like?